Hey, what up, folks? Welcome, welcome, welcome. As you can see, things are not as they seem. I don't know if you can actually hear me. Had a total crash tonight with everything in our system. Literally everything. So I see folks in the chat now, but we had a total crash. Take you back here. This is back to me. Everything that we have pretty much went down. My switcher. There we go. There's the bell. That's the ending one. Hold on. Everything kind of went down tonight. So again, bear with me. Again, it's last week there was issues. This week there's issues. So again, issues after issues. And let's see here. Let's see if I can't see it. I can't see the chats here, so let's bear with me. So, little update last week. So I'll do the best I can here tonight, guys. I didn't want to leave you hanging. I know you came in late. So my switcher that switches screens crashed out. So that was tonight. But last week, the stream was messed up. And wanted to explain why the stream was messed up. It wasn't anything that was on my end or anything. It actually was Restream. Restream was having some issues, right, with the signal. And that's what was causing it to crash. It had nothing to do. So I'm sitting here scrambling, trying to fix my stuff, changing all kinds of settings, right? And it wasn't even my fault. But they didn't send out any notice that there was an issue. So anyway, I ended up changing all my settings, screwing stuff up, thinking it was my fault. So basically the switcher that switches, does all the switching for my computers and everything, ultimately failed me. So as a result, I had to yank the computer, everything out, hardwire back in, and try to get something that, excuse me, the mic's way over there, something that works. So it was no lie. Tonight was a total mess. And anyway, I'm even glad I'm here because it was just, it's nasty. There is some good news. Good news is that it was not the computer. I was worried that it was the $7,000 computer had gone kaput already. That kind of made me a little nervous that the computer had gone bad. But good news is it wasn't the computer. So that's let me see. I got the wrong glasses on, folks. Hold on. I got to get my code glasses on here. Okay, there we go. And so, thanks for joining me again. Sorry, everybody, for it being late. So it just is what it is, and the problems that I have. Okay. Now, I don't even know if I have things set up right for the do some exam prep tonight questions. I'm going to have to do it on the fly, folks. So again, if you're first time here, Larry, welcome. Schwartzy, I see you in the house. David, Daryl, Freeland, Adam, Jesse, everybody in the house, in the house, Russ. Hey, I appreciate you. Normally I have my act together, but this was not sure what's going on. But I do know that I put my faith in the switcher and it let me down. So I'm going to have to reconfigure my entire system to no longer use a switcher. Okay. If I want to, if I want to go to another screen or something, I'm going to have to just do something different. Right. All right. Anyway, thanks, Michael, for joining me. Richard, for joining me again. Tim's in the house. So sorry for being late, folks. Okay. Well, I'm late, but let's go on and get into some stuff here. First of all, I'll tell you some updates of what's going on. So if you're interested in our grounding and bonding course, it is available. The new one, the budget version is available. We're not going to have any version other than the budget for the grounding and bonding, basically because it just made sense to just do the grounding and bonding only to do a budget for that instead of the other ones. So what that will mean is we may not have a bundle for the 2023. We might just kill the bundles. And so a lot of things are got to change. So, but the good news is the budget courses are less expensive. So that's always a good thing. All right, enough of that. I don't want to do any sales tonight. I'm just thinking about this overwhelming task of all these cords and everything that I've got to redo. Okay. All right. So good evening, DM. Thanks for joining. Again, sorry I was late, folks. I was lucky I even got it up and going because I started to not do it at all. All right, so let's see if we got anything going. Let's go to the Fast Trax program real quick, and I'll adjust the screen if I need to on the fly. But let's go on and go to, no, we don't want to go to the NEC. Let's go to the program. Okay, so let's see here. I think I'm going to readjust this real quick while I'm here, guys, if you don't mind. Hold on. Bear with me here. It might not let me here. Bear with me, guys. I'm sorry I have to do this on the fly, folks. It just didn't work for me tonight. So I'm pretty much stuck with it. So bear with me here while I try to rearrange everything. Okay, that's the best I can get for that. Let me see if I can do a little bit better. There we go. Okay. I don't know how far it'll scroll down. That looks like it goes down pretty decent. All right. Yeah, looks like it's covered everything. Okay. All right. So depending on which program you're in, if you got any questions, feel free. I will go try my best to see if we can't look up the answers to any of your questions you may have. And I'm still tweaking, so bear with me here. Let's see here. Okay. Again, usually I have my act together, but tonight I am not so much. Okay. All right. So anyway, this Fast Trax program, you all are probably familiar in it, or you've been working in it. Most of you students are. And what do we see? What's the congratulations going on here? Fabian, what did you say? Paul, just wanted to say thank you. Thank you all for your help. I passed my Westchester master test last week. Appreciate it. Oh, that's amazing. Hold on. I do know those work. Hold on. Congratulations on achieving that goal. It's always a wonderful feeling to achieve that goal. So great job. Sorry, Jesse. I told you I'm all discombobulated here tonight. Okay, but I got the horn going. All right. So good job. Congratulations for getting that done. Let's see here. Okay, bear with me here. Okay. All right. So if anybody's got any question in the unit you want to go to, I'm more than happy to do that. It might be a short one tonight, folks, because I am literally just scrambled to try to get this together. So bear with me. If you're new, I encourage you to go back on our YouTube channel for those that haven't and watch previous episodes. Watch Unit 13 episode, Unit 11 episode, Unit 8 episode. Make sure you definitely go back and watch those, right? This is the Wednesday night class, Jesus. We've come back to, we're doing them live now. So we don't do Zoom anymore. So Zoom is gone. This is a Wednesday night class. So if there's a question in a certain unit or something like that, we can go to here live so that everybody can get the benefit of working out a question or looking at a question. What I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to go on and get us to some practice questions really quickly. Bear with me here for a second. And so I can see if I can get this set up. Let's see here. Let's do master. If you got any questions, feel free to pop them in the comment area. And I will get this all situated here real quick. Okay. All right, so let's see here. See how that takes up. Yeah, it's not so bad. That takes up the screen real quick. All right, hold on. Let me get a copy while anybody's thinking of anything you want to ask. Feel free to type it in the field. I'm more than happy to do my best to answer what I can for you. I'm trying to get everything set up here, folks. Just bear with me. Oops, hitting the wrong buttons again. Bear with me, guys, while I'm getting everything set up. Usually I've got my act somewhat together, but tonight I clearly do not. Okay. Clearly do not. Okay. All right. Folks, let's see here if I can get something situated here so I can see what I'm doing first. All right, let me see what I'm doing. Okay. All right, guys. Walter, welcome. Thanks for joining. So, yes, so this is definitely the Wednesday night session for this Jesus. So you're in the right place, okay? You're in the right place. All right. What his question is, retaking my test, Master's Calc Friday, some commercial and non-dwelling would be great. Yeah, we're going to do Q&A. You know, commercial and non-dwelling is very broad. So I recommend that you go back DM and watch last week or the week before last, watch Unit 13. That one is based on commercial and non-dwelling applications. So we did that just 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday night. So I encourage you to go to the YouTube channel and check that out. It'll be Unit 13, and that one is the one that's going to be dealing with commercial or non-dwelling applications. So I encourage you to go back and watch that one. We did that, I think it's 2 weeks ago. Of course, you get some questions tonight to answer and use your code book, so, you know, but definitely make sure you go watch Unit 13 on our YouTube channel. And you're on YouTube, I see your symbol. So you ought to be able to go on it. No, that's all good. That's why I record it. You can go watch it again. All right, guys, you've seen the questions on the screen. Hopefully you can see the question on the screen. I don't know if I can make it any bigger, but I make it bigger. I don't know. There you go. That's maybe a little bigger. Hold on for a second. I'll try to tweak this screen here. Hold on here. I'll see if I can't allow me to tweak it a little bit. No, here we go. Let's see here. If you have to let me tweak it just a little, and we'll see if I can't tweak it a little bit and give it a little bit bigger for you. Okay. All right. That's a little bit bigger. Should be a little bit bigger for people to see. Let me lock that down. All right. Okay. Looks good. Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate it. Michael, taking your test on Tuesday for the journeyman. I failed it last time, made a 60. Have you been studying? Are you in the fast tracks? Have you been study? Are you ready? Did you give yourself enough time? I see Ted's already given some answers. Swartzy's already given some answers already. Okay. So where do we find this in the code? Hey, B is in the house. Thanks for joining, B. All right. And Ted, thanks for coming as well, Michael. All right. So question is, angle connectors for LFMC shall not be used for blank raceway installations. Well, first thing we do is we did what? You might know this question. And by the way, if you're taking an exam and you're doing your first wave, right? And you actually know the answers to the questions when you're doing the first wave, just choose the right answer. and it gives you some time. That's the first wave, okay? But how do we find this? So the first thing that we have to get used to is, what do I tell you? You have to get familiar with articles of the code, right? Something very critical to get familiar with. Well, obviously we're dealing with LFMC, okay? So that's Article 350, all right? So we're gonna go into 350. Now, I'm going to be using the 2020 again tonight because the vast majority of our students, of our 5,000 students, over 80% are in the 2020, okay? So that's why we're going to do that. So let's go to the NEC right here, and we'll go on down to the 2020. Incidentally, this is Link. For those that aren't familiar with Link, gives you access to it all the way back to 2008. I just don't have it loaded up on here. I just got these loaded up here. So we said we're going to go to 350 because that is liquid type flexible metallic conduit, okay? And when we go to 350, it won't take us much to say, now we could go to the index and look under liquid type flexible metallic conduit in the index. But I'm telling you, this is an example where bold scanning is just the best way to go rather than take so much time. You hit the bold scanning, and you'll go down on your bold scan, and you're looking. What we're looking for is we're looking for what? We're looking for something about connectors. Well, there it is. 350.42 coupling in connectors. And as you folks saw, here's the angle. Connectors shall not be concealed. Easy peasy. So on an exam, a couple ways to find this. You could have gone to the index. A lot of work. If you start to learn the different articles, then you will learn that when an article is not very big, you're able to go to it and do bold scanning and you can find your answer. Now, what I'd love you to do is, if you're in the course, that you actually knew the answer because you studied it, it was in the program. I would love that to be the real answer, and you just knew the answer to that. Now, in this one, you can use deductive reasoning, right? A little logic train. Okay, elevated, really? Open, what? Exposed or concealed, are you really only two optioned? And basically, angle connectors for LFMC shall not be used for exposed raceway installations. Why would you not be able to use it exposed? So the only one here that makes plausible sense is to conceal. And your reference is 350.42. By the way, we'll go back to the lesson. By the way, these questions are indeed in your 2020 and the 2023 exam prep question package. Okay, so they're all in there. All right, good job. Next question. All right, it says the maximum continuous load that can be placed on a 150 amp fuse is blank amperes. Michael, you're not in the fast tracks? Okay, good deal. All right, so what do you think, folks? What are we looking for here? So obviously the question is talking about a fuse, right? Let me lower this down a little bit for y'all. There we go. And oh, by the way, you do have the timer feature in these new ones if you want, okay? There's a new timer feature that's available. Maintenance, 50 amps, is not an option, all right? So, but we're not gonna mess with the timer tonight. All right, so I got 150, I got 120. So let's think about this. The maximum continuous load. Now, I've taught this to people a lot when it comes to an overcurrent device, and the maximum continuous load that can be placed on it is what? So if it was the conductor, you'd be doing it 125%, right? If it is the breaker, then you're gonna be doing it at 80%, right? So let's see what we've got here. Let's see how that works out. So if we did 150 times 0.80, it's going to be 120, right? It's not going to be all these other numbers in here. It's not going to make any sense to be 140, 150, or 175, because remember, continuous loads, if you're talking about the conductor, or you are given an actual load, then you take it at 125%, right? If it's the overcurrent device, and that's what they give you, and they want to know what's the maximum continuous load that you can put on that device, remember that 80% is the reciprocal of 125. So I can take the rating on the overcurrent device, right? And do that 125, do it by 80%. Then that would give me the answer, okay? Okay, so let's go again. And where do we see that in the code? Well, we know that the question here is talking about just a overcurrent device, so we could simply, it doesn't matter whether it's a feeder, it doesn't matter whether it's a branch circuit, but we know, I believe this is probably a branch circuit question, okay? Not that it matters, because it's the same concept either way. And there's the answer. All right, it's not showing you the answer, so I got to scroll up. I think I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, folks. Hold on for a second. There we go. I want to be able to see more of it here. All right, so there. So there's your answer, 120. And again, you just simply take the 150. Now I'm going to take the 150, multiply that by 0.80. It's the easiest way to do it. And that's going to give you 120. Now, if I were to be given 120 amps on a question and it says take that as a continuous load, then I would take the 120 times 1.25. And that's how we get the 150, right? So see how they're reciprocal? Just keep that in mind. You're not going to see anywhere in the code refer to 80%. So you have to understand that 80% is the reciprocal of 125%. And that's going to do you a lot of benefit as you move forward in that, understanding those nuances. Next question. Okay. The derating factor in 31015C1, and remember now we're talking about what? The number of current carrying conductors? That's what it's asking about. Walter says, where do you use the 83%? That's for services and feeder calculations. Okay, that's back when we're doing a service. All this was didn't say anything about service and feeder, just simple overcurrent protected device application. Think of 83% when you're going to apply 310.12. And remember the rules, Walter, in 310.12, it's only for service. There was nothing in that question about a service. The 83%, it has to be between 100 and 400 amps, right? So again, it's got all those nuances, but that's 310.12. We were just talking about a simple overcurrent device and its limitation, okay? All right, so 310.15C1 shall be applied only where the number of current carrying conductors in an auxiliary gutter, including neutral conductor classified as current carrying under the provisions of 310.15B5 exceed what? 20, 25, 30, or 50? What do you think? Okay. So this is pretty much, the first thing that you would notice on this one, that it's talking about what? What's the target? What's the thing that's in here? Well, obviously the question, the root of this, if you're on an exam and you look at it and go, oh crap, you might think the 20, and it's auxiliary gutter, right? So you're thinking, well, the answer has got to be an auxiliary gutter, which is Article 366. I'll remind you, if you're in the Fast Tracks program, take a moment to do the flashcards. Create your own electronic flashcards for every article that's in the NEC so that you can get familiar with taking an exam, looking at it, and once you identify the root, you're like, oh crap, there's a lot of language around this, but we're talking about auxiliary gutters, and I know auxiliary gutters are in 366. I also know that auxiliary gutter is not a big article. So I'm not going to waste my time in the index. I'm going to go right to 366, right? Okay. Now B says 20. Okay. Guys, look it up in your code book and tell me what you think. Give me some answers here. Where you at, Michael? Jesse? Where y'all at? Give me some answers. B actually went and found the answer and has updated the answer to 30. So what's the code reference? Right, to find this answer. There you go. 366, got dyslexia. 366, but are you sure it's 22? It might be 22. We'll go look at it here in a second. So you've at least given me a code reference. Okay. Jesse. Jesse's come in here with the code reference that I was expecting and came in with a 30 as well. Okay. So where do we find it? So what I'm going to do is I know immediately one of the things that I'm going to do if I'm sitting on an exam, okay, is, okay, so 2017, it could be different. Absolutely. All right, so the key is as long as you got the 30, that's the key. That's the key for me. All right, now they're rolling in here, okay? Ted says it's in the 2017, it's also 23. So I don't know. Ted and B, okay? We need somebody that's in the 2017 that's other than B and Ted. Look and see if 366 is .23 or .22. Because B says it's 22, Ted says it's 23. Everybody else is saying 23, so check it out. So I can do that myself too. So let's go on and let's go to the NEC. And of course, I'm in the 2020. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go on down to where I said I was going to go to auxiliary gutters. And I'm going to go to 366. And again, you could scope it down quickly. And I'm looking at the number of conductors. And then we've got 23 is ampacity of conductors. Okay. So we're looking for, it could be 22 or 23. Let's make sure we look. So let's go to 22. Because that is what was referenced as well. All right, so here's the 20%, but that's asking about the cross-sectional area, okay, of it. All right, since we're talking about current carrying conductors, then we want to be in, we're talking about ampacity, because the only thing that we got to worry about is the number of current carrying conductors, and all this language of the question, all of it is really having to do with something that's going to affect the ampacity of a conductor. That's it. So we know that it's in .23. And one thing we do on an exam, and I'll go back to the lesson here, is we also use the questions that are answers that are in the below the question on an exam. We use those inside of the code. So if I went to the right location, I'm immediately scanning for something like 20, 25, 30, and 50. Immediately scanning. Remember, sitting for an exam is not a time to gain knowledge. That's too late. Right now, you're using all the tricks you can. You know the code. You've learned the code. Now you're going to use things to your advantage, like the answers when you're looking it up, right? So in our case, right there, we go back to the NEC. And has anybody noticed I'm not squinting tonight? Nobody's noticed. Okay. I was surprised. I thought Schwartzy would notice right off the bat that I'm not squinting. All right. So you look in the question, you will notice that since it makes a reference here, it exceeds 30 at any cross-sectional area. So again, and it talks about all that. It's making reference, current carrying conductors, neutrals, all these references that are jiving, right? And then right here, do that. Now let me double check because I'm gonna make sure I'm still in the 20. I'm in 2020. Right? So the answer is 30, okay? So we'll come back to the lesson. There you go. You can rewatch. Michael's busy in 3 code books. All right. So answer is 30. There's our reference, 366.23a. Well, 2 weeks off. I had plenty of time. Did you know I ordered these glasses online and it took like 3 weeks to get them? But I got 2 pair. One for the computer and one, these have bifocals, but something about my eyes and the distance to these screens, they told me to get a new pair. So I've got 2 pairs. And y'all will get a kick out of this. In this pair, it says Master the NEC. That's my daily driver. And in this pair, it says Code Guru. And that's how I just remember when I'm on the computer, these, because they look identical and I can't see long distances out of that one, and they are not reading glasses. So anyway, I'm not that old. I'm getting there, but anyway. All right, good job. Everybody did good? Okay. Plus, I'm not going to lie. I found out how to make the screen on my computer super huge. So I'm not going to lie. I got text this size on my screens. Okay. All right. So I didn't want to say that part, but anyway. All right, next one, flexible cords that are rated for applications over 600 volt and are 12 AWG and larger shall be what? Copper only, not used, solid, or stranded? What do you think? Okay. So when you're thinking about this, first thing that comes to mind, where do we need to be? How do we dissect the root to this question? Well, all this is great, but flexible chords started the whole lesson. Okay. Yeah, that's why that cursor is massive. Absolutely. Dude, you guilty. I made everything huge because I can't see. So, but that bigger cursor means y'all can see it better too, right? So there you go. All right. So what we're looking at is flexible chords. Where's flexible chords in the NEC? What article is it? Okay. Now I've got my NEC as well. So again, I would be remiss if I didn't tell some of you out there that are new or they're not familiar with these type of things. I would be remiss if I didn't explain that you actually can use the index. In this case, I could look at the index, and this is where I'm going to expose the fact that even though I've got new glasses, it's not going to work for me because now I can't see up close. So if I'm looking in here, I am a mess. I'm just telling you, it's a bitch to get old, and I'm not even that old, and it's gone downhill. So you go in the back, and let's see what we've got under. Let's see if there's anything under chords. There is chords. Let's see here. There's chords. Okay. So then you would go down through chords. Although I'll tell you, since this question is asking about applications of over 600 volts and things like that, it's probably easier just to go to the actual article. And I haven't said it yet, but B has. And look in here. Now, what I'm looking for is over 600 or appliances and something similar. So I'm looking here and I see over 600 and it says part 3. Okay. So questions about an application where it's over 600. So I see part 3. So if I was done an exam, then I'm going to say, okay, well, that's the case. I'm going to go to the NEC. And I'm going to go back up into here and I'm going to go to 400 because that is the article that we're working in. Okay. So that's 400. And we look at part 2 and we got portable cables over. Here we go. So we've got a lot of extra stuff. So here we're going to go there because we're dealing with over 600. Y'all can see that, right? Okay. And so I'm going to go there and I'm just going to go to the scope. And what am I looking for? I'm bold scanning now. I'm looking for anything that says applications, anything to do with copper only or stranded or solid. What references? Okay, so A, right here, it didn't take me very long. It says the conductors shall be 12 gauge copper or larger and shall employ flexible stranding. Okay, so this all has to do with portable cables over 600 volts. It didn't take me long to see a reference to 12 copper or larger, but the key here, it says what? Answer the question is actually talking about flexible. Now, interesting with this one is that I believe we could have said copper only. Okay. So, but the actual best answer for this is stranding. Because let's see here, copper only would have been wrong. Let's go back here. Let's see, conductors shall be 12 copper or larger and shall employ flexible stranding. Okay, well, if you choose copper only, right, but stranding. Okay, and let's see here. Let me look down real quick. I just want to look and see a little more in here just for craps and giggles. Yeah, this is funny because you could have argued that it was you could argue that it's 2 answers for this one. Okay, again, not all these answers in this database are the best in the world, I promise you. But again, the best possible answer here, I believe, is going to be the stranding. I would have written this question a little bit different, but hey, it's all good. All right, next question. Oh, and by the way, these questions are out of the new database. They are not the old database. The 2023 y'all have this new database. Those are in the 2020. You get both. You get the old database, which has about 700 to 800 questions in it. And then you get this new database, which is another 600, 700, 800, some odd questions, and practice ones, and some extra videos. So that is a difference for those that have it. 2017, folks, I'm sorry, they didn't do one for the 2017 that we could offer. Okay. So no, I don't write these code questions. No. We buy these. I am not the guy that's going to sit down and try to write 1,500 code questions. Hell no. A code question is a code question. I am not going to, no, thank you. We buy these for our students, okay? And what you'll find is a lot of the questions are very similar to what you see on an exam, that type of thing, but absolutely not. I do not write these code questions. They are not mine. Now, I have the course. I alter and create the course, which is based off of a book that's published by a good friend of mine. We add things where necessary, correct things, add certain things in it. It's not designed for exam prep. So we create exam prep out of it and turn it into an exam prep. And then I grade everything, so it's that extra stuff. But when it comes to the database of questions, absolutely not. I don't have a desire to sit down and write 1,500 questions. I got better things to do with my time. All right. Next one here is the size of the feeder circuit grounded conductor shall not be smaller than that required by 220.61, 250.66, 250.122, or 310.15b16. Okay, so it's asking the size of the feeder's circuit grounded conductor shall not be smaller than that required by what? Okay, so what do you think? Here's your code references. Now, make sure you think about this one. Okay. And we'll give it a look-see. Give me your thoughts. Well, B says 215, okay, dot 2, okay, liking it. Anybody else? Oh, and by the way, B says C. That's funny. So anybody else want to look at it? So this is talking about feeder. So the first thing that this should kick off to you in your mind is that it's a feeder question. So that is Article 215. It's the first thing kicks off in my mind. And it's making general statements about the size of the grounded conductor. And it's not to be smaller than this. It's probably going to be larger based on a neutral load calculation, right? That type of thing. Swartzy says 220.61. Now, 220.61 talks about how you can reduce the size of the neutral and when you can and when you can't for the load calculation. But there's rules that determine a minimum size, even though the calculation is going to result in a bigger one. Usually, there are minimum sizes that we have to meet. Okay, so think about that one again, Swartzy, and we'll go over to the code. All right, so the first thing that triggers to me again is feeder, right? So I'm going to go to the NEC, and I'm going to go to 215, which you should know is actual feeders. Okay, and we'll go to the beginning here. All right, so this is at the very beginning, and we're talking about minimums, rating, and sizing feeders. Again, not over 1,000. Okay, and we look down and we scroll down, and boom, right away you see grounded conductor. It says the size of the feeder circuit's grounded conductor shall not be smaller than that required by 250.122. Okay, so again, it's a feeder, so it's got an overcurrent device ahead of it, so it can't be smaller. Now, we're also talking about what? The equipment grounding conductor is size 250.122, right? But this is also reminding us that, hey, by the way, that grounded conductor can also not be smaller than what we require by 250.122. Okay, now, is it going to be larger? Yeah, probably is based on a load calculation and what the neutral load is. But we already know it can't be smaller than that's required by 250.122. Okay? And of course, since it's talking about 250 to 122, that means it's about the overcurrent device sizing, because that's all 250.122 driven, is the overcurrent device drives the size of it. So basically, what it's saying is that your grounded conductor cannot be smaller than your equipment grounded conductor. They have to be, they're going to be sized the same. So that's a minimum. But you all know that you're going to have to do a load calc, and your neutral's probably going to be larger. Okay. So let's go back to the lesson here. So that's just like a minimum size rule for the feeder. Minimum size rule for the grounded conductor. So right there, and there's the reference 215.2A2. Okay. So again, the triggers in that one is feeder. Then you got to know Article 215. And then when you get to Article 215 is not big at all. So at that point, you would know to just bold scan, and you'll see the grounded conductor size. All right, next question. AC or DC rated snap switches shall be allowed to be loaded to blank percent of their rating when used on inductive type loads. Okay, so what do you think? Well, again, what does your first thing that you thought of when you looked at this? Switches. This should have been the first thing you looked at and go, well, it's switches. And now, since it's talking about switches, it's talking about the ratings of switches. Now, I can go to the index, and the reason we don't use the index on here is because NFPA, in their infinite wisdom, and I love them, don't get me wrong, they did not put the index in link. Okay, so we don't get that luxury. So, but if you go to the index and you look under switches, okay, so we'll see if there's anything in the index under switches. If you end up having to use it, now here's switches. So switches tells you, okay, what does it say? This is from a previous class. I feel like we did this question before. Yeah, maybe, okay. But you need to be able to look it up. What's your answer, Freeland? Did you look? Do you know the answer? Did you look it up? It doesn't matter. Okay, we can switch around. If you think it's a different one, I could do this all day long, and I don't know. Eventually, we are going to cover every one, and I'm going to end up covering them over again. But use it as an exercise. So if I go under switches, and I look under switches, and so the root of this one is the ratings. So I would look down and see if there's anything under ratings that might be beneficial to me. I do see snap. It says snap switches. So it ends up sending me to snap. And I would go over looking under snap and see if I can see if it says anything under snap switches. So let's see. Let me look under, see if it looks, I'm supposed to look under snap. Let's see here. So under snap switches, you go down and you'll see ratings, 404.14. So we know we could stop at that point if you were on the exam, and you just go to the NEC, and you're going to go to 404. And it was 15. And we use the index for that, but you could have bold scanned it, right? And you would have seen ratings and use of switches, right? So you would have clicked on it, and you would have seen rating use of switches. And the first thing we'll be looking for is, this question was an AC or DC rated snap switch, okay? So this one here is just alternating current. This one's alternating current and direct current snap switches, and immediately my mind's drawn to this 50, okay? So we have to look at the question is about inductive type loads. That was in the question. So that's what you see right there, inductive type loads, 50%, okay? So we'll go back to the lesson. So go back here, 50%. There's your reference, 404.14b2. So this one you could have found in the index, or you could have gone to 404 and you could have bold scanned. You knew what you were looking for. You were looking for the rating, because that's the whole question was based on a rating. So you need to go look for that type of thing. Oh, by the way, next week I will be doing, the class will be Ohm's Law and some parallel and series circuits, okay, for those that need that theory stuff. So that's hopefully, if everything goes well, next week, that's going to be Ohm's Law questions, things like that. And we'll be also doing some series and parallel calculations and things like that to kind of give you the basics of series and parallels in case you get one of those weird little theory questions on an exam. And we'll probably, since that won't take very long, then we'll also probably do some questions and things like that. Remember, as always, if you have questions from your Fast Trax program, make sure you bring them to class and we will go and look at them. If any of the units that you don't understand, this is your time for me to be able to do it. This is not, let me make it clear, folks, this was not a Wednesday night for people that aren't really Fast Trax students. We allow you to come in and join us, but this is really dedicated to Fast Trax students. So just want to make sure we all know that's where this is actually dedicated to. We appreciate everybody coming. But this is so that Fast Trax students can ask any questions that they might want to ask during the session. Okay. So we try to add it, but that's the reason why I went to public, is because I wanted to open it up so everybody could learn a little bit rather than keep it closed. Okay. A lot of people miss the closed sessions, but again, I wanted to open it up a little bit. And I'm not perfect. I tell people all the time, I'm not the best educator in the world. Okay, I'm just a guy trying to teach people code. Okay, so, hey, Swartzy, I appreciate you. Hey, Michael, we got to talk because I do want to talk to you about something for cracking the code to do something together. So I want to get with you. So get rested up because I do want to talk to you. Maybe if you get a chance one day this week, go to Fast Trax chat. And I'll text you, and we'll try to get together if you have a free moment on a call. I want to talk to you about something I got planned. And that reminds me, folks, y'all should be utilizing the Sparky Hub to post questions and do stuff. Michael has put a bunch of questions up there, okay? And a bunch of practice questions up there. So again, use all the resources you can, okay? It's not just for exam prep. It's going to make you a better electrician, right? And Michael jumps in there every day. So go over there to the Sparky Hub. I think I would have shut that down if it hadn't been for Michael's diligence on that thing. Thank you for subscribing, Avelero. I can't pronounce it, but I do thank you. Okay. All right. So let's look at this question right here, folks. Cable splice is made and insulated by approved methods shall be permitted to be located within a cable tray, provided they are blank, and shall be permitted to project above the side rail if not subject to physical damage. Okay. Night, Michael. Appreciate you. Michael, the other Michael going too. Thanks for joining, Michael. I appreciate you coming. All right. So Sneed World donated $10. Dude, I appreciate you. Thank you. All goes back into the program. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. So let's look at this question. So what are we talking about here? So provided they are accessible, grounded, 600 volts or over 600 volts. So the first thing you'd look at this, folks, is what are you thinking in your mind? Okay. What is one of the thoughts that plays in your head when you look at this? Okay. You're thinking, well, it's talking about what? Cable tray. Well, you should already know the article for cable tray, right? I'm sure you know the article for cable tray. It's 392, right? Cable trays, okay? I do need to get back to Sparky Hub. Been hectic. Yeah, Ted, whenever you get a chance, jump in there, post, look around, share it with folks out there. It's a message board that does not have the BS. It's just post your questions, answer questions. Again, we appreciate anybody that uses it. That's why I created it, so that folks can use it. All right, so 392 is cable trays. Now, the question is very specific about splices that are being made in it, okay? So you could go to the index. Now, 392 is not an overly complicated article to maneuver, but it is a bit long in the tooth. So one of the things that I might do is I might either go to bold scan 392, or I might come over here and look under cable tray and see if there's anything immediately that would give me, let's see here, under cable tray, and see if there's anything that happens to be. So there's cable trays, and then I'm looking here and I'm going to bold scan down for cable trays and see if I see anything that might remotely help me with my answer. Okay, and let's see here. Splices, cables, right there under cable tray. So that quickly, if you didn't want to go 395, I mean, why do I keep saying that? 392, then you could have done what? Go right here in the index under cable trays, and there it is, splices. Make sure you understand how to dissect what the question is asking, right? And splices. And so it clearly says 392.56. I don't think we need to go any further in the index for that. We'll go to 392. So let's go back up here. If I was bold scanning it, right, then I'm looking down here, bold scanning what's each one of the bold settings in the code book, right? And you go down and see splices, right? If you were doing it in the code book, just to show you, if I was doing it in the code book, what bold scanning means is we know what we're looking for, right? And so we're scanning down usage permitted, wiring methods, industrial applications, non-metallics. Okay, we're looking, he's bold scanning these, okay, going down, cables conductor installation, no. Okay, singles, 20, no. We're just bold scanning our way down until we get down, and we're just kind of jumping on this. 30 securing, that's not what the question was about. Okay, splices, okay. Well, cable splices made and insulated by approved methods shall be permitted to be located in the cable tray provided they are, and y'all said it and y'all got it right, accessible. Okay, so we go back to the question. Accessible is the answer, and there's our code reference, 392.56. Okay. Oh, by the way, the questions, the reason I don't write them is because I know where these questions come from, and especially in the ones that are in our other database, a lot of times those questions will appear on exams. Why? Because they come from the DeWalt database. And so, again, these questions don't. These comes from another collection. And so if I write them, they're just Paul writing them. These are used widely in a publication, means that they're coming from people that either help write the tests or as part of committees or whatnot like that. So I feel more comfortable with these types of questions. Now, I just pull something random out of the NEC, but again, I'm not going to do that for 1,500 questions. I'd rather pay the money so that you can have the benefit. All right, next one. Receptacles that need replacement shall be replaced with replacement blank receptacles where required in the NEC. Okay, so general statement here. Receptacles that need replacement shall be replaced with replacement blank receptacles. AFCI, tamper resistant, or weather resistant where required. So what do you think the answer to that? Is that not an actual true statement in more than one location? And we're only looking for one right answer, right? So again, so Manuel says tamper resistant, but Manuel, let me ask you this. If you install the receptacle in an outdoor location, is it not also required to be weather resistant, a WR rating? If I install a receptacle in a location that requires AFCI protection and I'm replacing the receptacle, does it not require it to be protected by AFCI? So at the end of the day, what do we got? We've got multiple choices. Yeah, Alan says that's a gimme. So you're going to get gimmies on the exam. And I want you to remember that's how you do that first wave, right? So you go through your exam, answer all the questions you know, almost without even having to open up your code book. And you're going to be electronic. So you're going to go through and answer them. Ones that you're not aware of, you're going to check it, mark it so that you can do it in the next wave. But just try to go through the questions on your first wave as quick as possible. Answer what you feel very confident and know. If there's one that you're like, I know the answer, but oh, maybe not, still mark it. You can always reaffirm it on the second wave. That first wave, what we want to do is we want to take those 100 questions and knock it down to 80 questions or 70 questions or whatever, so that now you can focus a little bit better. Answer what you know without a doubt, and you go with your training. Go with what you've been studying. Go with that's why the Fast Trax program, for those that are in it, is so important, because you learn so many things that you hopefully will stick in your head. And when you're sitting there in the exam, you just don't have to look it up. Okay? That type of scenario. All right. So in this one, since we're talking about receptacles, right? And it's a replacement rule, right? So where are we going to be? Because I haven't got any code references here. But you know how we like to have code references. There we go. Daryl's popping out some code references. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. So let's go into NEC. And we're going to go over here to the NEC, and we're going to go to receptacles, which y'all should know is Article 406. Here it is right there. And in this case, it's talking about the replacement of the receptacles. And so right there, general requirements. Let me get rid of this. Here, grounded type. All right, and here's your D, here's your replacements, right? And so looking at what Daryl has provided us, then we got D4, 5, and 6. All right, well, D4, there's your arc fault one that's in there, right? And then 5, there's your tamper resistant one, right? And there's 6, there's your weather resistant one right there, okay? So the answer to that is all of the above. And there's your code references right there, D456. Daryl, very well done on the screen. Gave me the answer and the code reference. That's awesome. Is this your first time? All right. Next one, here we go. An overcurrent protected device rated 1,000 amps requires a blank AWG equipment grounding conductor. First thing that should trigger in your mind. Yeah, there can be some trick questions, except for they're not really trick questions. They might give you extra fluff. They might give you something that's not even germane to the question, but it draws your mind away from all the simple question is answering. Okay, so that's why, for example, in the Fast Trax, I don't know if some of you noticed this, that, for example, if the question is 47 kW, but you put 40,000, say it's 40 kW, and you put 40,000 kW, you'll notice I mark it wrong. I know that you know that it's 40,000, but isn't 40,000 kW wrong? It should be 40 what? kW, or 40,000 watts. You know what I'm saying? Okay, or 40,000 VA, however you're working it out. But to put 40,000 kW is actually wrong. I don't grade them that way to make it difficult. I grade it that way to make you stop and think. Okay, my grade scores don't matter, but I want you to be hyper-focused when you're actually doing it. And that's why I do it that way. Okay. All right. So first thing we notice in this question, okay, B's giving us an answer here. The first thing we notice that it's an equipment grounding conductor. You should know right off the bat that the equipment grounding conductors are sized based on the overcurrent protected device. The overcurrent protected device here is 1,000 amps. So you should know to go to 250.122. Remember, some of the key things to remember in 250 tables to remember is when you're sizing grounding electrode conductors, go to 250.66. When you're sizing the equipment grounding conductors, go to 250.122. When you're sizing supply side bonding jumpers, minimum size for the grounded conductors for the service. The supply side bonding jumpers, all main bonding jumper minimum sizing, even though 250.28 and 24 and all that will ultimately send you to 250.102C. Okay, so just remember those important tables: 250.102C, 250.66, and 250.122. Key tables to put into your mind, okay, when it comes to grounding and bonding. Okay, those are the most significant tables within that article. Okay, all right, so let's go to the NEC real quick. and do this. So we know that we're sizing, oh, sorry about that. Got out of there. We're sizing the equipment grounding conductor, and we're going to go to 250 at 122 because that's where we go for a sizing of equipment grounding conductors. Right there, size of equipment ground. Okay, we got 2 answers on here now. All right, we'll go down here to the table. Right here, here's 1,000. And right here, 2/0. Now, notice the question didn't ask and say that it was copper, but you know to always assume copper unless stated otherwise. Y'all know that, right? That's pretty much a given on most exams. Okay, now be careful because they could have asked you for the aluminum size, but you're so focused on everything's copper unless stated otherwise, and then, you know, you give the wrong answer. So just be very focused on it. So 2/0, and there you go. 250.122 and table 250.122, okay? So the 250.122 ultimately sends you to the table. Y'all doing great tonight. Next one here. Panel boards or switchboards used as service equipment and connected to a 3-phase 4-wide delta system require the phase with the higher voltage to ground to be connected to the blank phase in the panel. Again, this should be one that you obviously will answer, right? And simply just move on through. But it's something that you need to know, and you need to know where it's at and says this actually in the NEC, okay? All right, Chad, welcome Chad, says B phase. And we're all familiar with the B phase, okay? But where is that? Where does it say that in the NEC? That's what we want to look for, okay? So see who can give us a reference, code reference for this. Now, I'm going to tell you, both switchboards and panel boards are located in the same article, okay? So we know there's a specific article we're going to go to, right? Specifically straight at it. So we got that, okay? Not 110, okay? What article is panel boards and switchboards? That's where we need to look at, okay? All right, Manuel says 408, which is absolutely correct. And not sure, you know, maybe depending on what code cycle Manuel is, we'll see. But says that B, so we're going to go look it up in the code, but I know that it's in 408. Okay, so we're going to go look for that in the NEC. So I'm over here in the NEC. We're going to go to 408. Okay, so here you go. Right here you see switchboards, switchgear, and panel boards. Okay. I'm actually liking that E better, and Manuel's on the 2023, so it could have changed in the 2023. So let's go here. The fact that you got the answer, and I think you posted the answer. Yeah, you might have already posted the answer. So we'll go here. Now, when you're looking down it, okay, one of the things that we're looking at is going, okay, well, arrangement of the bus bars and conductors. Okay. First part there. Didn't take us long. Now, if we weren't doing that and we were bold scanning, okay, part 1, it wouldn't take us long to look here and see conductors, the support and arrangement. All right. All right. So then we're going to go down and hit and see what we're looking for. Bus arrangement, E. Okay. And then we see the B. We see a mention of B. Remember, triggers. Questions about B. And it says the B phase shall be the phase having the higher voltage to ground on 3-phase 4-wire delta systems. Okay, so answer is most certainly the B, and this is E1 in the 2020 edition of the National Electrical Code. So we'll go back. It's most certainly B, and there you go, 408.3E1 in the 2020 edition. Okay, 2023, it's still gonna be around the same area. Okay. All right, y'all are doing great. Next question. And also, as I say, if you have any questions out of your fast track you want to go look at that confuse you, just post them in here and we'll go look at it. All right, tap conductors for recess lighting fixtures or luminaires shall be in a suitable raceway or type AC or MC cable of at least 18 inches, but not more than blank feet in length. Now, this is an example of a question where I would sometimes on my competency reviews, I will give you something in feet and it might be in the code in inches and you have to convert it to feet. I don't do that to be tricky either. It's just to make you stop and think and you just don't get robotic in it, that type of scenario, okay? So what do you think? So where do we need to go? Well, first thing when I see this, we're talking about the tap conductors, but what is it for? When you're looking at this question and you dissect it, what is it for? All right, well, the tap conductors, but it's talking about lighting fixtures or luminaires. That's what it's talking about. So one of the things that you realize is you got to know what article deals with luminaires. Walter, absolutely. 410. Get used to those code references, 410. Now, I could go to 410 and start bold scanning, right? And I'm clearly going to be looking for tap conductors, that type of scenario. Again, I could go to the index under luminaires and see what I have in the index and see if it says anything about taps. Let's see here. I'm just looking in the back real quick for those that do want to get used to or familiar with using the index. I'm going to go back into the back and look under luminaires, and I'm going to see if it says anything about tap conductors, anything to do with taps, just so I can see what's in the back here. Let's see. So let's look at the question again. Okay, bear with me here as I get my eyes refocused here. Let's see if there's anything in the index that might help us or give us some assistance on this. And let's see. Oh, well, somebody, MC Van, welcome Van, I didn't see you there, says MC whips. Okay, but where is that? Anything in the back that can help us? Let's see here. Connections. Let's see here. I'm just looking to see if there's anything that would have driven me. Anything that would have been beneficial to me in the back. And I don't really see anything except for there's a wiring that's in part 6. And that's just the questions about wiring. So I would get to part 6 if we're talking about just some wiring. And we'll see if that works out for us. Again, that's the thing. Index is not the holy grail. So that's why it's so important to get used to things like understanding luminaires and what article deals with it and things like that. So we've got a lot of 410s and we got a lot of 410 117s. Okay. Is that happen to be under part 6? Well, let's see. So let's go to the NEC. And let's see here. So we're going to go to 410 because we've all established that this is luminaires. Okay. And if I kind of go down and start my journey, and it looks like it's past that. So there's 7. So what is 6, by the way? There's 5. 6 was just the wiring. Okay, so that wouldn't have helped us. Let's see here. If I'm bold scanning, well, there's wiring, but what is that under? There you go. Flush recess luminaires. Hey, so in the index, was there anything under recess luminaires or flush luminaires? But in the question, it is a recessed lighting fixture. Doesn't say luminaire, but we know what we're talking about. It's supposed to be luminaire. Okay, so I think we're right there in that ballpark. So let's see what we've got. And boom, tap conductors right there. Now, what I'm looking in here, it says, all right. So the question about MC or AC. Says such taps shall be in suitable raceway or MCAC. So this is word for word from the code, the question. 18 inches, but not more than 6 feet. Okay, so we already got the 18. So all we need is the 6 feet. So we go back to the lesson, 6 feet. And there we go, 410.117C. Remember, the index is great, but it's not like a Tom Henry index. Okay, it's not going to be the holy grail. Okay, so the one thing is getting to the back and seeing if it made any reference to the root here, which would have been recessed luminaires. and I didn't look. Is there anything in the back under, let's see, luminaires? Is there anything under luminaires for recessed? I'm interested. So we've got, yes, recessed. And it says see recessed luminaires. Okay. So it's going to end up sending me to recess luminaires. So I'm going to go to recess and look under there. It would have sent me there. So I'm going to go look and see here. So recessed luminaires. Okay. So that would have got me. All right. There you go. Wiring 410.117. Boom. So how important is that to realize that if you get a question like this on an exam, light fixtures is not used in the NEC anymore. This is recessed luminaires. So you have to use a little knowledge to say, well, that's what we're talking about. Recessed lighting fixtures is recessed luminaires. And when you went to luminaires, then you would have seen recessed lighting. We didn't on the first pass, did we? Because we were looking specifically to see if it said anything in there like tap conductors or anything like that. But the real question is about recessed luminaires. Okay, so there you go, Walter. It's not necessarily a trick question, but the wording in it is using language that's not even endorsed by the NEC, right? We don't use lighting fixtures anymore in the NEC. So you have to kind of use that deductive reasoning to get there, that type of thing. So absolutely. Next question. Electric drinking fountains shall be protected by a blank. AFCI, GFCI, GFPE, or NFPA. So process of elimination, we can get rid of NFPA. Okay, does that kind of makes sense, right? We can just get rid of that one. Okay, we can pretty much get rid of ground fault GFPE because it's certainly not 1,000 volts. So I don't think we need GFPE. So we've eliminated that down to 2. It's either AFCI or GFCI. Well, there is no AFCI requirements in a commercial building, and you typically wouldn't have an electric drinking fountain in a residence. I guess you could, but so the only logical answer that you could have is to go with GFCI. So this one, we didn't have to look anything up. We just used deductive reasoning to be able to determine that it should be GFCI. Okay, now, as far as looking it up, we know that in a commercial building, an electric drinking fountain falls under what? An appliance in 422. So we would have gone to 422. We could do that. And I recommend with 422, since this is talking about GFCIs, AFCIs, all this kind of stuff, that it's going to be in the very front of 422. And we're talking about the different appliances, right? So we're here in the very front here, and you'll go down and you're going to see all these things that are listed in here, okay? Storage, central vac, flexible cords. And the one thing to remember is that you've got the only one it starts out with here is GFCI. Doesn't say anything about AFCI here, doesn't say anything about GFPE, and most certainly doesn't say a thing about NFPA. So we were going to be under 422.5 because GFCI is the only one that's mentioned in our question. And there you go. So there you go. And of course, there you go. Drinking water cooler. Okay. Scenario there. It's called in the code a drinking water cooler. They're calling it electric drinking fountain. You got to be able to realize that the questions you get on an exam are probably going to be you're going to get some wonky questions. And you just got to do your best to work it out. Okay. So in this case, the answer here, the drinking water cooler, right, is actually the one we're talking about, and that is the electric drinking fountain. Same scenario. Okay, so, and there it is. There's our code reference 422.5A2. Okay, so again, these are some good questions in a sense that it's written the way somebody might write them, and it's not verbatim from the code, which again means that a bunch of guys and gals sat in a room and all they did was write these things down. No, it wouldn't be 210.8D, right? In that scenario, but it would be. It could be for you if you're in the 2023. Okay. There you go. In the 2020, it's 422.5. Now, just for craps and giggles, like we said here, I'll show you. Now, I am now into the 2023, and you see GFCI protection here. It is still 422.5, and it's still drinking water cooler, okay? So you're in the Freeland, you're in the 2023, but this is the 2023 I am working in now, okay? On my screen, I didn't show y'all. On my screen, this is, as you see right here, this is the 2023, and it is still 422.5. Now, because you made that statement, I do want to show that real quick, okay? Okay, so what you stated was .8 D, and when you go down to D here, okay, specific appliances right here as well, you're going to see this drinking water coolers as well, okay? So beautiful thing is we have a bit of redundancy in here for the application, okay? But I will remind you that D right here is a bit more inclusive. If you look at some of the new things that got introduced in the 2023, okay, it's quite a bit more, okay? So perfectly would have accepted your answer, Freeland, for the 2023 edition as well. And I also would have accepted 422.5 as well, okay? Remember, these questions are 2020 though, that we're doing tonight. But again, wanted to show you that, and there was a reason why I wanted to jump and show you that, because I knew that it was in both locations. There you go. So there's your answer, and you got it right. Another one. Ready? All right. Means shall be provided to ensure that a fan circuit is energized when any heater circuit is energized. Okay, so they're interconnected. However, blank in energizing the fan motor shall be permitted. Time delay, temperature delay, either A or B, or none of the above. So this is a good question. How do you dissect this one out? So you're saying, okay, which one do I look at here? So what's a key giveaway for me? For me, is right here. So it's talking about heating. So we have specific articles that deal with the heating, okay? So this is talking about heating, and it's talking about a fan system to blow this heating out, okay? So let me get my code book back open. And so for me, the fan, it's a fixed heating that actually has a fan blower component in it that blows it on. And what we're trying to determine here is, can there be a time delay? Can there be a temperature delay, right? Between the fan blowing and the heater coming on, or the heating coil, or is either A or B is acceptable, or is none of the above acceptable here in this application? So what do you thought? So I kind of told you where you need to be. This is, when I see this heating circuit and I think about the fan, it's heating. To me, this is fixed heating, okay? So where do you think you need to be? And it's space heating because it's designed to heat a specific space. So there's a specific article that deals with what? Space heating. Fixed space heating, okay? Didn't say anything about this being portable in any way. So what do you think it is? All right, well, let's go to the code, and I'll show you an example here. So here is fixed space heating. Very few code questions show up about fixed space heating, but it's right there, okay? And so if you click on it, then the question is about what? The question here is about interaction, or the delay of the fan versus the heating. And so if you look at it, and you'll go down and you start looking down this, so that's cables, and it's duct heaters, okay? Fan circuit interlock, okay? So a duct heater, all right? There's not a lot that's going to throw you in to make you think that this is a duct heater, by the way, unless you know a little bit about how they're designed. So this question can be very broad. It could have you running all over the place in the National Electrical Code, right? So one of the ways to find this, if you are not proficient, is to realize, and I'm going to show you, 424 is pretty extensive, right? But if you were bold scanning, and what you're looking for is something to do with the fan motor, something to do with fan or interlocking or interconnection, then I would be bold scanning, and all we're bold scanning is these headings, right? And I would be bold scanning down, locations, nothing about it, combustible, disconnect, that wasn't the question, right? And you just bold scan your way down, and I think somebody did find the answer, posted it, Walter, there you go. And you go down, overcurrent, that's not what the question's about. Okay. Not what the question's about. Electric spacing cable, it's not about a cable. Okay, I'm still going down looking. We're still talking about cables and splices and all this kind of stuff. That's not where we're at. All right. No, we're still talking about cables. Cables under floor, and that's not what we're talking about. All right, duct heaters. So apply to any heater mounted in the airstream of a forced air system where the air moving unit is not provided as an integral part. So again, you got the duct system and you got this fan that's blowing it, okay? So we're gonna go look down and interlock. We know what interlock means. The whole question is determining whether or not the heater circuit energized, whether or not the fan can delay or not. All right, and here's what it says. It says, means shall be provided to ensure that the fan circuit is energized when any heater circuit is energized. However, time or temperature controlled delays in energizing the fan shall be permitted. Okay, so back to the lesson. Really, either A or B is permitted. So 424 usually doesn't come up very much on exams, but make sure you give it a quick look and just make sure you see how it's divided up and determine whether or not they're asking you about a heating cable, whether they're asking about fixed heating like a duct heater with a fan blowing system. Just be careful and make sure you do it. Hey, B, got to run, dinner time. You must be on the West Coast. Appreciate the time. Wish you luck. Absolutely wish you luck Friday. Let us know. Hopefully you'll come back next week. Regardless of whether you pass or not, you're still going to join us. If you pass, still would love to see you because, again, we're going to be doing some other stuff next week. And, hey, if you're in the IBEW, man, you're going to be already schooled up on Ohm's Law, Watt's Law, and all that series and parallels. So that'll be old hat for you. Love to see you. Okay? So there we go. So as y'all can see, this was an interlock question, right? Right there. And that's how we answered the question, okay? All right. All right, guys, you ready? Let's do this one here. All right, a single phase 7.5 horsepower induction motor operating at 280 volts requires blank AWG THW aluminum conductors. Okay, so we got to do a little work here. All right, the first thing that we'll think about is that it's only going to benefit me to do anything if I know what the amps are. And so we're dealing with a motor. I got to know where to get amps. Y'all all know where to get amps, so you should know. There's 3 or 4 specific tables in the back of 430. Okay, 430.248, 249, 250. Those are the ones that you use primarily for finding the FLC for motors. Of course, you also have for locked rotor, you have 430.251 and all that too. But for standard, just normal type motors, what we're looking for is 430, 248, 249, 250, depending on whether it's single phase or 3-phase. Obviously, this is single phase 208 volt. Okay, so it's being derived from a 3-phase, but we're working with a motor that is single phase. Okay, 208 volt. All right, so what we're going to do, we'll go to the NEC, kind of work this out. So we'll go to 430. we said where we're going to be. We're going to be in the back of 430. So we'll go to 430. We'll just go to the back of it, back to these tables, and I'll shortcut this thing and get us in the back. Okay. So we're doing single phase. All right, Jesse's already got us an answer. So let's see what this table is because I can't see the table. So let's go this over a little bit. And this is direct current, so that's 247. The reason I don't usually mention it, 248, 249, 250, I don't usually mention 247. That's why I said about 4 tables, because I just don't do that much. But don't you forget that DC does have a table for DC motors. Don't forget. All right, so here's your single phase right there. This is 430, 248. And we're looking at a 7.5 horsepower. So right here, 7.5. Oops, right there. And we need to go over to 208 volt right here in this column right here. So we'll just follow that down. And that is 44. So we'll write that down. So that's your FLC, 44 amps. Okay. All right. So now, once we know that we have the 44 amps, this is a single phase motor, right? Y'all with me? So what do you do with that? Well, single phase motor, you got to do what for single motors? For a single motor, you got to do what with it? What's the next step that you would do with this? What do you think? It's a motor, and it's a single motor, and we have to size a conductor. So what article deals with single motors when you're sizing conductors? Anybody know? Or not article. Which section? That's it. I should say that better. What section deals with it? Where do we get that 125%? What section do we get it? I love testing you folks and let you see. Where do you get that rule from? Because I want to tell you about motors here for a second, for those to remember, some key things to remember with motors. All right, since nobody's responding, I'll go on and do it anyway. So when you think about motors, when you have a single motor, you need to go to 430. There you go, Manuel. 430.22 for a single motor. If you have multiple motors, you're going to go to 430.24. Okay. When you're doing the short circuit ground fault protection for motors, you're going to go to 430.52. Right. Okay. So that's where you go for that. The tables are in 430.248, 249, and 250. But don't forget, if it's DC, there is a table 247 as well. And don't forget that this is aluminum conductors, okay? That part as well, okay? So in our case, we had 44 amps. So we'll go 44 times 1.25, and that is 55 amps. So now we're gonna go to what table gives us the ampacities, right? And remember, this is THW, remember? So we're gonna go to, remember, I just wanna show you the question. We're dealing with aluminum THW, okay? So we know we're 55 amps, but we have to have a conductor that's good for 55 amps, and it's aluminum, and it's got to be THW. Just wanted to make sure that is all clear. So let's go here, and now I'll go to 310.16. That's our ampacity table. If you're in the 2017 code, it's 310.15B16. I'd be glad when I don't have to say that ever again. I got a bunch of sizes here. Remember, we're doing aluminum. Okay, questions about aluminum. All right, so 310.16. And we're here. All right, so 310.16 is here. Let's go on down to the table. Here's the table. So it is THW, right? And here's THW right here. Okay. And let's go down and see. So this is copper side though. So we got to go over to the aluminum side, right? Let's go over to the aluminum side. How about that? All right, we're over here at the aluminum side. So here's the THW under the 75. Now, the first thing that somebody's going to say to me is, well, what about the small conductor rules, right? Well, again, there are allowances under 110.14 that talks about, well, if it's a motor, then the terminals are going to be 75 degrees C, and that's going to be the case for most motors. So you're going to be in the 75, and you get to ignore that 60 degree if it's 100 amps or less. Okay, this is a motor we're talking about. All right, so THW, let's see what we got here. So I got to go down here. I guess I got to scroll a little bit more to the right. Sorry about that, folks. All right, so I need one that's going to handle 55 amps. Well, looks like it's going to be a number 4. That would be the answer. So let's go back over to the lesson. And there you go. 430.248 by virtue of 430.22 and ultimately end up in 310.16. They didn't even give you the 430.22 in here, but I gave it to you, okay? So remember, motors can do things different. Now, if you're saying, where does it say that, Paul? Let me go on and get you there just so I can make sure that you're not confused with what I said about the 75 degrees C for motors in 110.14. So I just want to show you. Let me take you to the code. And here's a provision right here of your terminal limitations. And again, it's 14 through 1. And it's rated 100 amps or less. Typically it'd be 60 degree, right? But here you've got motors. Motors that are rated design B, C, and D. And typical, the default motor is B, right? And when you get here, it basically tells you that you can use the 75, okay? So again, now remember, not all exams are going to be so logical. So make sure you check the other answers, all right? Now, why is that important? I'm going to show you now. Because we did this, I'm going to take you back to where we were before, 310.16. I'm going to show you why this is important to be able to be fully fluent when you're doing all this. Now, we're back at the table. If I had said aluminum, go back over here to aluminum, and I want to get the, let's see if I can't get the 60 degree column just to show you. So this is the 75. And it was THW, but if we had followed 110.14c rules, then it looks like where we'd be over here, it says, what do we need, 55 amps? It would have still been right here. It would have still been, and let's make sure I can show it all the way over. It would have still been, sorry about this, folks. This is the process of having to make screens so big. It still would have been a 4. So you see, either way, so make sure that you fully work out the question and understand the question itself, okay? Because some people will look at this question and say, well, it didn't say design B, and since it wasn't over 100 amps and all these conductors were going to be less than 1, then I would have used the 60 degree column and the answer would still been 4, okay? All of that being true, remember, they could give you a question with a motor. They could say it's design B, C, or D. They could give you any of that stuff in an exam, so just make sure. Just remember, typically the motors for most exams, the questions that I helped write for states, it's always just assumed that the design was a B, standard B design motor. But again, it depends. Every state's different. Every group of people that write questions different. So just be conscious of that and be willing to work it out. Okay. Next question is, if a motor controller is marked with the voltage rating of 480 volts, so it's the motor controller, it says the maximum voltage to ground the controller can handle is blank volts. So if its voltage rating is 480, what's the maximum voltage it can handle? Think about this question for a second. If it tells you the maximum voltage rating is 480 volts, and that's all it says, what would be the maximum voltage to ground? This should be one you get on the first wave, but we want you to make sure that you can find this in the code, okay? Now, it is a motor controller. So we know it's going to be, something's going to be where? It's going to be in 430. And it's going to be in the area that deals with motor controller, right? Another good tip with the NEC, and I'll go to the NEC really quickly for this, is when you go to 430, y'all all know this, it's a little pictogram that's in the front of your code book. In the 2023's pictogram is even more detailed than the 2020, by the way. So it was a much better in the 2023 edition of the NEC. It was more detailed of a design. Okay, but let's go to the beginning. So here's the very beginning of the code. Let's actually get to the code real quick here. So here you've got this nice little pictogram. And believe it or not, this was expanded even more in the 2023 edition of the NEC. All right, but what are we dealing with? The question's about a motor controller. It looks like, what is this? Part 7 deals with motor controllers, right? So for me, without going back to the index and doing that, I know that I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go to motor controllers. Okay, so let's see if I can't get the index up here, and I just jump down to motor controllers. Right here. I'm at motor controllers, and then so the question was maximum voltage to ground. Okay, so I'm looking at the question, right? And let's see here. So the design, all right? That's not going to help me. The rating, that's what it's asking me about the rating. Okay, it has rating in the question, voltage rating. Okay, and Manuel has a reference in there. So we're looking at A. That's not relevant. That's not relevant. That's not relevant. Voltage rating. That was actually in the question. All right. Now, quickly, I'm looking at it, and I'm saying a controller with a straight voltage rating, which is what ours was. It was a straight 480. Okay. For example, 240 volts or 480 shall be permitted to be applied to the circuit in which the nominal voltage between any two conductors does not exceed the controller's voltage rating. Got it. A controller with a slash rating, okay, for example, 120 240 volts or 480 277 shall only be applied to solidly grounded circuits. Okay, all great information, but the key value for me is basically a 480 is a straight voltage. So a 120 240 or a 277 480 to ground is 277, 480 is phase to phase. So in a straight rated 480, that controller 480 to ground would be what? 480, right? So basically a lot of words to tell you that. So come back to the lesson. Now, if this had a slash rating on this controller, then it would have been a different question here. But 480, and there's your 430.83E. Okay. Another question. You all ready? Bypass devices used with adjustment speed drives or variable frequency drives. Words. That's right. Just a lot of words. The bypass device used with a adjustable speed drive system shall be sized at blank percent of the power conversion equipment or the motor's full load current rating, whichever is larger. Right? So this is a good one for you to look up. What do you think? Well, we're obviously talking about variable frequency drive, and we also made reference to or the motor's full load current. So this is obviously another question that is where. So obviously it's in motors, right? But where is it in motors? Where are we talking about these drives? All right, well, we'll go back, since this is a good lesson again, y'all look it up. We'll go back to our nifty little pictogram again and see what we've got here. Let me see if I can get us back there quicker. Right there. There we go. So now we're talking about what? We're back here at our little pictogram, and on the pictogram, I don't see anything that talks about that, right? So we're back up here at our part references, so this is important too. And it looks like we have adjustable speed drive systems 430.120 through 430.131, right? That is not a lot. For me, I'm stopping right there. Now I could go to the index and look up adjustable speed drive systems, variable frequency drive. I could spend a lot of time in the back, but when it's a motor question like this, I'm better off to get it narrowed down to a specific area and then bold scan. Right now, I don't have many because it's section 120 through 131. I can see that very quickly. So I'm going to go there and get down to 120. And that's where we'll start our bold scanning right there. All right. So here we're at in it. And what are we doing now? First thing I'll tell you, it's an exam. So you're looking for values that match the percentage in the answer. 100, 110, 125, or 150. So that's what I'm focusing on. And immediately I see 125. So I'm thinking, is that it? Is the answer 125? My thing is beeping over here. So, but I see that percentage. I'm gonna look again and I see 125 again, okay? And I also notice that it talks about motor full load current. So again, here it says 100% of the input current for the conversion equipment, okay? So all I'm seeing here, now let's look at the bypass device. That was our question about a bypass device. So we had 125 here, we had 125 here. Now we're talking about a bypass device, and it looks like both equate to what? 125. Easy peasy on that one. So we're coming back to the lesson. 125. And there you go. 430.122 B1 or B2. Or in this case, is C. Will give us the same answer again. Okay. You'll also notice that when I grade your work, I don't know if you've noticed this. When I grade your work, I do not count it wrong if you got the question right and you gave me a code reference and you found the answer at different locations than where I would expect you. I don't mark that wrong. When I mark wrong is when you leave the code reference blank. That tells me you just guessed. And I want you to support all of your answers with a code reference. Now, maybe you get the answer from another place that I didn't expect you to get it. That's okay. I'd rather you do that. And Jesse will tell you, I'm pretty picky on my grading. But as long as you give me the answer and you don't leave a code reference blank, I can't stand blank code references. Just can't. All right. So let's kind of, all right. So that was our answer. All right. Let's go back to this question here. Now, this question says, point. Hey, you wearing those pods tonight, Jesse? You got the earbuds in? All right. It says a motor, another motor question, shall be provided with a disconnecting means and shall be located within blank of the controller with no obstructions. Okay. All right. So what do you think this here is? What do you think it is? 100 feet? Site of? 75 feet of? Or either A or B? What do you think the answer is? Okay. Well, you have to understand what within sight means. Okay. And there's two distinct pieces to that. Manuel, are you talking about the Fast Trax program or are you talking about the residential or commercial programs? Because there is none that I have waited on for the Fast Trax Black programs. So you must be talking about the residential or commercial. And they're in the middle of maintenance again because they changed their grading thing in it again. I don't control that. Cengage does. You're awful negative tonight, Manuel. So if you've gone 2 weeks and I have not graded it, you need to reach out because the 2023 system is different than the old 2020. And so it's easy for me to miss something because of the way the new system is. The old system, and I don't control that. Cengage is the one that runs the server, and it doesn't send me notices. If you did a review and you didn't do very well on the review, it doesn't necessarily send me another review. I have to go looking, so I could overlook it. Okay, so if you don't get something, and I grade every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. If you submitted it on a Tuesday and you don't get a grading on a Wednesday and Thursday comes, you need to reach out to me and let me know because it could have got lost in the system. Okay, it should not take 2 weeks for me to do grading, so it is lost in the system. Okay, so you want to make sure that you reach out to me. Don't let it go that long. Okay, because I grade every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now, sometimes I have a delay. I might be traveling or doing something. So I'll respond back and go, yep, I know, I'm getting to it, but do not let it go 2 weeks. That is too long. I grade multiple times a week, so it must have just been oversight. So I will get to your grading here pronto. All right. So we had a bunch of people answer some questions here. Somebody says Article 100. Inside of, Walter says, and then Daryl gives me the reference that I'm looking for. Okay. But you can get the reference in multiple locations. Okay. So let's go to the code. So we know it's inside of. Let's go to the code book. And we're still in motors, but we're talking about what? The disconnecting means. So just for practice of what we've been doing, just to kind of show you how this would work again, I'll go back to the beginning here. And we're talking about what? We're talking about the disconnect. So here's the disconnecting means right here. It's 101 through 113. Dude, that is not very many. So immediately, if I get this kind of question on an exam and I'm dealing with a motor, then I'm going to go right to 101, okay? So we'll do that. Now, again, this one you can get multiple locations, but we're going to go to the actual 101. All right. So here's 101, and there you go. Now, what does it say right there? For that's that part of it. There's the motor, okay? Here's the disconnect. Separate disconnect shall be located in sight from the motor location, okay? And they're talking about within the controller. So here's the controller disconnect, okay? And again, this one talks about in sight from. So we've got multiple locations here that we can get the answer, all right? So up here under A, here's the controller, all right? Here, the disconnecting means shall be located in sight from the controller location. So that is more accurately the one that we want to have. But you can see that we didn't get far along in here before we had controller and we had within sight of, and this pretty much is verbatim. Let's see here. We found it in other, within sight of is in a lot of locations, okay? And so then you pretty much lose all the insight stuff, okay? So again, Article 100 would have done it as well, but you also inside of here. Now, if you want to know the definition of within sight of, then you go to Article 100, and that's where you're going to learn that's within 50 feet. So funny, if the disconnect is within sight, but it's 51 feet away, then it's technically not within sight, even though you can still see it. It's by the code, it's not within sight. All right, last one for the night, folks. And then I got to figure out what's going on with this stuff here. All right, the ampere rating of a disconnect for Hermetic compressor motor shall be blank % of the nameplate rated load current or the branch circuit selection current, whichever is greater. Okay, what do you think? All right, so dissecting this question, obviously it's talking about this. So we're not looking at motor. We're looking at what? We're looking at an HVAC. We're looking at what article deals with Hermetic compressor motors. Okay, what article will we be working in? Let's see if anybody gets it for us here today. That's a trigger to me. We're looking for a Hermetic compressor motor, okay? And we're looking at for the ampere rating of a disconnect for such Hermetic compressor motor, okay? So where we need to be. All right, Jesse says 440. I agree. Don't necessarily agree with the section, but I agree. 440. Where it needs to be. But right now we're looking for the amp rating of the disconnect. And it's obviously in a percentage. So we'll go look at Jesse's, but let's see if that's where we actually want to be. So Jesse's right, it is in 440. And we go to 440. Now, one of the things that we can do with your code book is you're going to bold scan. Electronic's easier, but obviously you don't get the electronic edition when you're actually, there you go, Jesse. bounced back quickly. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So we will ignore Jesse's first contribution to that and go here. So here is where I believe he said first to go. Right here, amp and rating. Okay. But that's really not talking about, so there's a hermetic refrigerant motor compressor. That's really not talking about the disconnect, I don't believe. We got to go a little bit more. And so in our case, we would go to disconnecting means, because that's what it was talked about, okay? And then I want to go down and say, well, the rating and interrupted rating, obviously of what? The disconnecting means. I mean, that's what the whole question's about. The rating, a percentage of the nameplate of the motor for this disconnect. What are we using, okay? So let's go down. So here we're at, and immediately 115 starts sticking out in our head, right? We start seeing that pounce up. We don't see the 125, 150, or 200. I'll go down real quick. I see 115 just for scanning, and I'm looking at it, and we're dealing again. And really wasn't asking us anything about horsepower, but even if we did go screwy, it's still 115. So we look at it, but our question is the rating of the disconnect, right? And so that's what we're here, ampere rating, and here's what it says. The ampere rating shall be at least 115% of the nameplate rated load current or branch circuit selection current, whichever is greater. 115%. It's just that easy on that one. And I didn't have to go a long way. We just need to focus on it that it's hermetic. You know, maybe it would have been easier for you if it was hermetic refrigerant compressor, but they left out refrigerant, but you just need to know the hermetic compressor, the only really thing it can be is HVAC. Ackridge, thank you. You're more than welcome. Hopefully you're enjoying it or getting something out of it. Remind you folks that next week we're going to be doing Ohm's Law, Watt's Law, series and parallel circuits if everything goes right. Okay, so if you need those little theory stuff, make sure you join us. All right, so we're going to say 115, and there's your answer right there. One more, tank. One more. Okay, we'll do one more. All right, there you go. There you go, tank. Dry type transformers under 1,000 volt installed on a column in the open shall not be required to be blank. So it's basically a transformer installed on a column out in the open. Is not required to be what? Readily accessible, isolated, accessible, or grounded. What do you think? Now, where you go in the code? Well, the first dead giveaway for me and you, if you're preparing for an exam, the first dead giveaway is right here. Okay. The second dead giveaway for me is it's a dry type. So we're not looking for oil filled. We're at a dry type, right? And we're trying to use these words to determine whether or not what we're talking about for this transformer. So in a transformer, we can go, and you know what article transformers are. Hopefully, you know, okay? Oh, and by the way, 2023 edition now defines what a transformer is. We all know it is a separately derived system, but not all transformers are separately derived systems. For example, an auto transformer is not a separately derived system. Okay, so it was important in the 2023 to add a definition of transformer. So that's what you got. You got a new definition. All right, but we know transformers are in what article? 450. So let's go to 450. Now you could use the index and look under transformers, right? But again, I'm telling you, transformers is not very big. And if you get into the skill of bold scanning, it's going to serve you well. Because if you look here, it's not really big, okay? And we can eliminate most of it, right? We're eliminating the oil part, okay? So most of it, we're just cutting it down to what we need, right? Okay? And this is all the questions ask us about what? Accessible, readily accessible, everything. It's kind of like the ability to get to it, right? Do I have to get to it? It's up on open, mounted up on a column. Does it need accessibility and all that kind of stuff? So anyway, when we go here, oops, sorry about that. Go to 450. We're bold scanning. We don't even need to go to the oil fill one, right? with bold scanning. And we're looking at definition. That has nothing to do with what our question is. We're scanning down through it. Auto transformer, absolutely nothing to do with the question. Grounding, added in the question, although it did say grounded in it, okay? But not really germane to what we're doing. Kind of going down, bold scanning, secondary ties, and has nothing to do with the question. Let's see, parallel operation, no. Guarding, nope. Ventilation, nope. Grounding, okay, but that's talking about equipment grounding conductors and supply side bonding jumpers, not really germane to what we're talking about. Markings, nope. Let's see, terminal wiring space, inside, nope. Accessibility, open installations. Dry transformers, 1,000 volts, ding, 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 all these things in the question, okay? Dry type transformers, 1,000 volts, nominal or less, located in an open on walls, columns, or structures, shall not be required to be readily accessible. Now, they will be accessible because you can use portable means to get there, right? But they're not required to be readily accessible. And methinks Mr. Puffing Ass is got a little delay going on in his feed, probably. That's why he's still on 440. Okay? And it happens, depending on the connection. All right, so there's your answer right there. Readily accessible. Let's come back to the lesson. Boom, boom. 450.13a. All right, Tank, that was your last question. Let me bring it back to me. All right, guys, sorry for the roughness starting out tonight. Again, I got all kinds of issues going on here, and then I almost canceled it again at the last minute, and I said no. Last week I had to cancel. And like I said, it wasn't my fault even last week. It was Restream's fault. So unfortunately, I don't know if I did something to cause the problems to my system because of that, but I don't know. So at any rate, all resolved now, and I'll get it all cleaned up here, folks. So again, hopefully you got something out of the night. You found it was a little helpful for you. Sorry I was a bit rushed in it. Usually I'm not, so hopefully you'll join me next Wednesday as we'll do a lesson. But I'm going to remind you, go back to our YouTube channel, watch Unit 8, watch Unit 11, and watch Unit 13, because we have done those, okay? Okay, so want to make sure that you go check those out. They're definitely going to pay dividends for you if you're preparing for an electrical exam. It's great to be back, Jesse. I'm glad at least it works, that type of thing, okay? Same. So, all right, guys, I appreciate you all. Hopefully you got something out of it. If you're on TikTok, go make sure you check out Jay. He uses our course for his teaching on there and everything like that. So again, as much practice as you can get, it's just going to make you better. And it does make me feel good that a lot of the people that I see in here already have their license and already been through our course, or already are even coming back even afterward, okay? And so, you know, that's one of those things. Hey, I appreciate it, Walter. You don't, it's somewhere on the YouTube thing at the bottom, but you don't have to do that. I appreciate you. Most certainly I do appreciate you. And I appreciate all of you. So that's it. Appreciate you. So till next time, folks, I'm going to let y'all all go. I don't know if I'm going to work with this tonight. I am not 100% sure that I'm going to do that, but I am going to make sure that I get over there and get yours graded, because I want to make sure we get that done for you tonight. All right. All right, folks, till next time. I appreciate you all. Stay safe. God bless.